video is going to talk about a counting principle related to reuse counts. Basically, with Flex, the simple counting example is a machine would ideally have both a gross counter, and the gross counter would be related to the totalizer on the machine. So everything that goes through the machine would be captured in the totalizer, and the gross counts through Flex would come from that same source. And the other sensor that we like to get on certain machines, it's possible to get a good count, such as a web press. So for example, if we have 1,000 units go through that machine, which comes out here, all the paper that came through the machine would come out at this location. 1,000 came through the machine, and we see that 800 good units actually came off the machine. That would mean that 200 units had to be wasted. So the simple equation is the total amount of inventory consumed ultimately gets converted into good units that are sold to the customer, plus whatever waste gets thrown away. So in this case, 1,000 went in, 800 got sent down the line, hopefully to customers, and 200 was wasted. We can see this in another example, a simple diagram. And in Flex, you'll see reports for material. So again, inventory for these 41 jobs. Customers had ordered 87,555. That was the plan to get produced. There was an allocation of about 8,000 for waste. That was both make ready and run waste. That total was 95,000 allocated out of inventory. That's the plan. What we saw actually go through the machine was a total of 87,687, which was about 132 extras. So that consumed more out of inventory than we planned. But the big problem here is that we consumed quite a bit more waste, 12,767. That's why the gross counter totals up 100,454. So that allocation of waste we can see again from the audit report. If you total up all the good total plan, you see the total good actual, the plan for waste, the actual waste, and what we see and what we're going to talk about next is the reuse count. So if we look at a machine that can run reuse product, that would be a sheet fed press. Very similar to a copy machine or a desktop printer where you can flip pages over and run them through the machine again. So you can hopefully save some money on paper. In this particular case, we can see that pre-printed paper was put through the machine. It would be the first stack that would come out the other side through the delivery. Those pre-printed sheets would hopefully reduce the amount of paper I would take to set the machine up. Once the machine's set up, I can get white stock, virgin stock from inventory. That stock goes through and creates sellable product, hopefully as much as possible. There's going to be a little bit of make ready, probably waste in that, plus run waste. Whatever waste I get off of that stack can get sent back through as reuse again to try to minimize the amount of paper that we're consuming. So again, the concept here is that gross counter is going to see a bigger pile of paper coming through the machine than what inventory allocated out to the machine. And that's the concept of reuse counts. So if we look at the diagram again, we can see that the plan for making this the runs for this job, for the jobs that day, customers had ordered 14,322. That's what they wanted. Allocation of a certain amount of make ready and run waste of 2,665. Should have only run 16,987 out of inventory. What's interesting is that we see the gross counter has 32,222, and that's substantially higher than what we see in terms of we did overproduce slightly on good, plus over consumed on waste. But when you total these two numbers together, the total overproduction is around 4,600, certainly not 15,000. How do we account for that difference? That would be the concept of the reuse cycles that went through the gross counter that were not included from the inventory counts. So if we look at, again, the audit report, we can see exactly where the reuse counts came through the sheet fed press. In some cases, the operator used quite a bit of reuse to set the machine up on some of these jobs, which would take a long time to run the machine during the make ready. But there's 10,618 reuse counts. So basically, if we take those off the gross count, we'll see the inventory allocation that was required to make this much good plus that much waste. On the advanced reports in Flex, we see these numbers, and now as we see, this is a much better way to see the results. The actual amount of paper that was pulled from inventory was 4,617 over the plan for the materials from inventory. One last thing is the gross minus reuse equals total. You can easily turn that equation around and say whatever goes through the gross counter has to be the total from inventory plus whatever reuse that cycled through the machine multiple times. That has to equal the total amount of good product plus waste plus that reuse. That's the math behind gross and total. So to summarize these concepts, gross should ideally come from the totalizer, everything that goes through the machine. Mass balance in Flex, whatever goes in has to come out, which would include reuse going through the machine. Total in is good plus waste. That's the planned consumption from inventory. That's what we mean by total, is the inventory management number. Gross equals the total for simple machines because there's no reuse in it. If you have the ability to run reuse through a machine, you're going to see gross equal to total plus reuse. The total displayed on most reports in Flex is going to be for inventory management purposes. And finally, reports showing gross are probably going to be used for count certifications. And that's it for reading.